Well, with an introduction like that, I should have a wrestler's belt on, right? Okay. The peasants want more. That was uttered by a unit production manager this week in Los Angeles, California. The peasants want more. It's 2021 and we want more sleep. Yeah, bro, you're right. It's 2021 and I'd like to spend time with my family on the weekends. Yeah, bro, you're right. It's 2021 and I'd not like to drive home drunk Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Yeah, bro, you're right. It's 2021 and we don't work in salt mines. We work on motion picture sets. And we work for conglomerates that make trillions of dollars. And we work for an AMPTP that promised us 10 years ago, when new media became a thing, that they would share the success of this as long as we hang with them now. It has been wildly successful. And they've shared nothing. Yeah, bro, we want more. So good on you, Mr. UPM. Good on you for saying that and that word getting out. You're the biggest tool out there that we work for. 35 years in the business. I'm looking around right now, and I'm looking at people that are working on a show with me right now. We wrapped at 7:30 a.m. Callie Moore, you're a rock star. I'm going to say it right here in front of everybody. Callie Moore, local 600 today. Callie Moore put this thing together in 2 days, which started a movement in New York and started a movement in California, and today they're having their block parties as well. Callie Moore, right there. And she asked me if I'd be kind enough to speak today. And I was thrilled. The hair stood up on my arms. Would I speak today? I'm supposed to be in Virginia right now. A motion picture studio up there is having a big reunion, if you will. Hotel room booked, flights booked. Supposed to get on a flight today. And I canceled it all because Callie Moore came to me on set on Wednesday and said, can you speak today? And there is nothing more important to me than to be with you here today. 100 of you, 150, 200, to be with you here today, to speak to you and show my love for you and show my solidarity with you. 35 years in the business. Now, I got off at 7:30 this morning. I got to bed around 8. I've had 4.5 hours of sleep. I could have blown this off, no problem. But this was my soccer game when my kids were little. This was the event down the street where the neighbors were having a cookout. This was the football games. The funerals I missed, the weddings I missed, the birthdays I missed. This is 2021. And they're working us like dogs and they're making record profits. And it stops now. In 35 years, we have never had this momentum, not even close. It's got to stop now. So yes, vote. Now you're going to look at me and say, Ray, this has never happened before. And yes, it has. Because let me tell you, in 1950, what Bring Your Kid to Work Day meant. In 1950, ladies, Bring Your Kid to Work Day meant you pack them up and you go into the mills, and if they're 7 or 8 years old and they can push that cart, or they can fill that bin, or they can move those rags, they came to work. And who stopped that? The union stopped that. And ladies, when you came to work and you got paid half as much as the men did, who stopped that? The union stopped that. So if you're sitting there thinking there's no way we can change this culture, you're wrong. We can change this culture, and we are going to change this culture. We're doing it right now. This is the time, and this is the moment. Now, I had the great interviewed, and I won't mention the station, it doesn't matter. The young lady, very sweet, very kind, represented us very well in her story, says to me, my set's in the back. I got there before call. I didn't want to do this on the producer's dime. You with me? My set's in the background. She holds the interview. The last thing she says to me, sort of as an aside, but mic's still on, camera's still rolling, she says, my God, man, what gives you the strength to stand in front of your own set, talking about your own show, 10 minutes before you go to work? And I said, I'm really happy that you asked me that question, young lady, because I'm going to remind you that as we stand here in this city, the city of Atlanta, Georgia, and maybe even I'm lucky enough right now to be standing on the same ground where Dr. King may have walked. And you're asking me where I find the strength to do this? When my mentor, and I don't know why I was so engaged with Dr. King as a 7 or 8 year old, I think it was his voice when I was a little kid. Just to hear him speak, the passion in his voice. And that carried me through my adult life. Then I started to read, then people were gifting me books. Matt Burns, one of my Dolly Griffiths, gifts me this book with my name in gold on it, and it's every word the man ever wrote or spoke. And that's my faith. That man gave his life for what he believed in. And this young lady's asking me, while I stand in Atlanta, Georgia, the birthplace of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who changed the world. And all we want to do is change the film industry. So that's why I can stand in front of you today. And that's why I can stand across the street from my set. And that's why I can stand for this little man right here, I hope rips for me someday. And make his life better. And young people, I'm talking to you 20, 30, yes, you 40-year-olds, you young people that have 20, 30, 40 years ahead of you, I'm 35 years in. That light right over there is the end of my road. So if we change this culture today, or we change it next week or next month, good for you. And maybe I get the last couple, 2 or 3 years of my career where I can spend time with my wife and my children and be as close to a normal human being as possible. But as Dave Comedy said, I stand here today for you. Just as Dr. King stood there for everybody that he represented. And let me make sure that you understand something clearly. You've seen the pictures. You've seen those white men locked arm in arm with him. They weren't always clergy. Most of them were labor leaders. And Dr. King and the labor movement locked arms, and that is where the movement began, and that's where it stays today. Nothing has changed. And that's the power and the strength we build off here today, friends. I have no notes. I have nothing written. It's coming from my heart today, and I'm going to wind this up. I thank you so much, Callie. I can't say it enough. And this, I've worked with you on other things. This isn't the first time you've got involved. You are not new to this. And I hope someday you're running 600. I mean it. You're what they need. Run for office, for God's sake. Anyway, and to the other friends, I'm looking around. There's probably 30 people here today from my show. As I said, we wrapped at 7:30 in the morning. These folks have had a few hours of sleep. So here we go, friends. This is the time now. If you feel compelled to vote no, don't vote. You abstain. If any of your friends feel compelled to vote no, tell them not to vote. They abstain. Period. I'll say it, at whatever cost, whatever risk. This is not the time for you or me. It is the time for us and we. I know you're scared. I know some of you are afraid. But let me show, if we show solidarity now, as Dave said and the other speakers said, we don't have to be afraid. That letter came out yesterday, the hair stood up on my arm. DGA, that's the directors. Sag-aftra, that's all the actors. WGA, that's the writers. And the Teamsters, And my sister's sitting right here who drives on my show, here supporting us today. You're talking about 60,000 people in the IA. How about another 200,000 or 300,000 in the other locals and the other unions and guilds I just mentioned, shutting this thing down? We will bring them to their knees. AMPTP, you called our card. And next week we will show you all, and we will show our international president, how we rally behind him and how we stand in solidarity. We're not asking for mad raises, 12, 13, 14, $15 an hour raises. No, we're asking for quality of life issues. Please, can we sleep? Please, can we rest on the weekends? This is 2021. This must stop now, friends, and it will stop with us. And as Kevin Cheatham said, my favorite four-letter word, and I've never been afraid to use it the 8 years I've been the president of 479, and I'll continue to use it until I'm done, and that's love. And I stand here today because you need this love, because it is not coming from the people we work for. And let me, as I leave, I'll share one quick story with you. It's my favorite short story to tell. I'm coaching high school basketball. I'm on a show that allowed me, like the sun opening the skies, allowed me 3 months a year off. My daughters were cheering at their high school team. They needed a basketball coach. I took the job. And it was the greatest time of my life. So I'm standing there while these young men, varsity boys, they're warming up before a practice, and I'm standing there with one of the assistant coaches. And I say to him, I wonder if these young men know how much we love and care for them. And he stopped and he looked at me a little puzzled. And he said, Ray, of course they know love and care for them. You show up. You show up every day. You've got a job, you've got a family and a career, but you show up for practice every day. Of course they know and love you each other, right? They know we love them. We know we care. AAMPT